It's that time again. Having a go at my build with Ian series. We're on to step 2. Tonight we're going to talk about the process I follow for preparing the model parts to go to paint. I have a fairly strange to some people, normal to me way of doing things. I work through my models, and as you'll see when you follow what I do in a minute, I kind of build them in my head without glue and without paint, so I understand the relationship of the parts. The parts are all treated individually and they're all cleaned up separately, so that is a step-by-step process. You might say that's a bit odd, but it works. It works for me, and it's how I choose to do things. What you find as you go along is you end up with a lot of bits all painted and assembled and ready to bolt onto other stages. The focus of the model is always the body. With cars, I'm a shapes and finish guy. I'm not into opening doors and detailing things like that. I'm about the shape and the look and the finish and the stance. A bit like a custom car modeler in some ways. A good friend of mine, Lee Crowden, who is Crow Customs, Krowk, on YouTube, where you'll find this. He's very much stance and shape. Sometimes, you'll have a piece of plastic out with some tubes and the wheels and axles through the tubes for the chassis, because everything above it is the focus. The colour, the curve, the shape. Other people I know who will spend an eternity detailing something. There's a gentleman on here, Kevin Haynes, I think his name is, who is currently building an American style racing pickup truck. That is a thing of beauty. Would I ever accomplish what he's done? No. It's not me, not the way I do stuff, but I'm in the middle. So let's have a look. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with the instructions in front of us, the sprues over here, and as is ubiquitously had, a takeaway box. All the bits are going to end up in that. All right. We're going to have some quality side cutters. I've got a set of the God Hand ones here. These are SPN 120s, which are the higher end one. I must admit, I succumbed to these at the Scale Model World Show at Telford a couple of 3 years ago. They are an absolute thing of beauty. They are wonderful. I am very careful not to mistreat them. Very careful, because I ain't buying another pair of that money. Not in a hurry. For the thing that you always have a problem with side cutters with is clear glass. The plastic is incredibly brittle, much more brittle than normal plastic, and as a result of which will damage these. They actually tell you not to do it. For these bits, I have these, which is a set of Master Tools single blade nippers, considerably more resilient, shall we say, than the God Hand ones, considerably less expensive too, and they are solely used for this, along with another technique which we'll come to later on, possibly in a separate video, because I might do treating these as a video in its own right. Okay. So with no further ado, I'll put those away quickly. We shall crack on and have a play. So we're ready to start. box. Yeah, so you know what I'm building. Alright. My sprues are here. I have my instructions. On the desk in front of me I also have, apart from the takeaway box, which has now gained the tyres and the polycaps, the photo etched fret, which is still sealed between its two film coats. I'll deal with it as I go along. This is, I think this is it's a fretless one, so there's only a few of the parts on the fret have got joining parts. So most of it's just going to lift off with the knife blade. What I'll do is, as I go through the stages, I'll select the elements of this I'm going to use. I'm probably not going to use all of it, because I find photo etch parts really frustrating, in that some of it's wonderful and really easy to use, but there's photo etch mud flaps on here. They're far too springy, far too difficult to use. You want soft rubber ones, and I've got some foul plastic, or like rubberized plastic, that I acquired many years ago that I use for those. I'll use this as a template basically to cut out replacement. In fact, the ones from the previous Lancer I built are on my magnetic knife rack up here. So let's have a play, shall we? See what we think. So on my bench, here's my instructions, as I say. So my chassis, my body, etch set, and my side cutters. Yeah, and my little bin. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to basically go through the construction stage by stage and work on which bits I need as I go. There are going to be spare parts in this box, we know there are, so what I want to do is build the kit. Now what I won't do is I won't discard the parts I don't use, simply because I've built at least one of these BMAX new kits where the wrong parts were called out on the instructions. It only became apparent later on. So we'll start with this. This here is a drill diagram. I think we covered this last time. So this is a drilling diagram with my hole sizes on it. I'm not going to bore you with me drilling these holes out. So rest assured that I'm going to get my drill bit out and I'm going to drill some holes in that floor. What I would say to you is, if you're going to drill some holes in that floor, make sure you've got the part orientated correctly, because you can get some of these reversed and then it's annoying, honestly. This piece here is your giveaway. There, look, see? So that's the right, so it's interior up for that one. All right. There are some holes to be drilled on the body as well, wiper blade locations and hood clips and things like that. There's an absolute bear to get in there, in that back corner. Back in there, there's two that come out somewhere on here and are for the hood, the tie downs for the back, for the trunk. The mould line up the side of here, we'll deal with that on another video. Okay, so we're going to talk about, today we're talking about how we go about the general parts, all right, not specific bits. So we know we're dealing with sprue A. What I haven't done, which I always usually do, is sort of line the sprues up on the bench beside me, lay them out with these style of multi-sprue kits. You know, you'll find lots of single part sprues like that. You know, you kind of know that once you've dealt with sprue M, that frame can, the remains of that frame can go. They're binned, you know, but still keep it on that until you need it. So we're going to start with the floor part, because floor part is here, and where you need the shock absorber and upright set for the back, spare wheel cover, exhaust, and the drive shaft and bottom of the transmission, most of which is on this sprue, I think. So, oh no, that's A. So this is sprue A. Here we go. Yes, sprue A, we need that part. side cutter use. Let's close in on this. These blades are single blades, so they clamp. As you close them, they cut. Yeah. I'm going to go in and I'm going to place the blades as tight to the part as I can and slide. And reverse my sprue and repeat the process. I don't tend to go to the tip of the blade. I go a bit further down the blade. Look, get more weight behind it. If I now examine that, I will find a very little mark. Oh, it shows up on the camera better than it does in real life. That's quite cool. Like that. There you go. So there's a little mark where the sprue was attached to it. And again here, obviously I've got a bit of a ejector pin there, so I'll get rid of that one. I have a little bin. Basically it's a round plastic tub over there somewhere. Yeah, bits like that go into. So this part is off the sprue. I know. So always do a little bit of a test fit because we're making sure that we're getting this right. We're making sure process is leading us in the direction it goes. That's a really nice snug fit actually. As I say, I built this kit before, so I know what it goes together like, but it is a lovely little thing. So there you go. It's nice and easy. Okay, so that in my box. Exhaust. So the exhaust is on sprue D. Now sprue D is the one with a lot of the vehicle specific elements on it. That was a carefully chosen way of describing it. And we need D3 and we need D4. What we find is when we come to, if we wanted to test fit those two parts, because this kit has a number of variations and those drill holes that we need are not cut yet, because yeah, to be fair, I forgot to do it before I started the video, if we're honest. These bits aren't going to fit to that floor. So exhaust, there's the hole for the front of the exhaust, that goes in there. There's a hole we're going to drill later on in there that pen will fit into, and another one here that center segment will fit into. But we can see that is indeed the right part for the job. That's good. This is the spare wheel carrier. That goes that way around and it fits back there. And again, we've got holes to cut in here that will peg into. Interesting, that's gloss black on the real car. And it's actually genuinely gloss black on the real car. The chassis is also gloss black. The yellow one I built, it was the yellow, which was quite cool. So that's the parts of that. We need sprue B, which unsurprisingly is this other big one, and we're going to find 12, 13, 14 and 15. 12, 13, 14, 15. So you may feel like I'm teaching people to suck eggs here, but you know, everybody has their way of doing stuff, and other people might be looking at it and going, what are you doing? So what I've done now is I've isolated the parts I need to build the kit up to the end of stage 1 on the instruction sheet. And in my head, I kind of know what I'm doing. These incidentally are not handed, which is useful. They go into there. So we're checking fit. I might need to clean that hole out. That one fits okay, but what I will do is I'd probably give that a little pass with my Tamiya file, just to make sure that everything fits nicely. These ones, first time I built one of these, I managed to put these upside down. The spring goes to the top, not the bottom, and they actually are quite a neat fit into these raised locators. Alright, now the instructions have you paint them satin black all over. I have got a reference picture that shows silver bodies with satin, with gloss black springs. It's up to you what you choose to do. It depends on how quickly or how well you want to build it, but you could do that. So what you do is, simplest thing to do is to mount it into one of these little crocodile clip on a stick things that you can get from Gunze and all sorts of people now. Mount it on. So, and now that, you know, see, and that's ready for paint. Now you're going to do a bit more I'm joking aside, you're not going to paint it straight away. You're going to do a bit of cleanup because there is a bit of flash going on in there, and some of the springs aren't lined up. It just needs a little pass with a file to tidy. Once that's silver, you can then use one of the AK marker pens, a black one for instance, he says. Here's one I prepared earlier, and just go over the spring, and that will give you a silver pen with a silver thing with a black spring. Nice and simple. But these are just the looking at the instructions, understanding what's going on stages. So now I can see that this transverse arm here on the instructions goes over these springs. So what I'm not going to do is not add this at the same time as those, because if I do and I get them glued wrong, it's going to be a pain in the bum to line up. So what I also look at is go, that is actually a structural upright, because that arm, where is it? So that is part A15. Here it is on the damn sprue. There we go, on it. So that's that one. We'll cut that off there. When now bearing in mind there's cleanup to do on this, more than is apparent actually. When I bring this to the model and I put those things in, those two bits in their holes, that's the front arms, that is floating free, look. Now there are two little forward arms in here which have both got locators on them, and they go down into holes we're going to drill from the other side, and they sit in there. Now it's interesting that is actually bent straight off the sprue. I hadn't noticed that. So get it lined up. This is your chance to do all your fit things. You have not painted it, you have done nothing. Alright, so making sure you've got your holes the right size, everything locates. Those uprights that we saw just now, they locate into those locations there, and then obviously when the holes are drilled, they locate into these bits, and that is what sets up the rear suspension height. So you've just got to be careful that everything is in the right place. Alright, you can't just chuck it together and go, yeah, that's fine. It's making sure these pins are in the right place, these are in the right place, that's cleaned up, it's not fouling anything, so it's pushing. This is how you end up with models that with off suspension and stuff. Quite a bit of cleanup on this, because that transmission thing is actually is reasonably visible, although the rear wheel covers in the front of it, it's actually quite visible from behind the car. But just maybe take your time to make sure these things are right. The other thing is, onto the end of this goes two parts. There's D9 and D10. Now D9 and D10 are the things that set the ride height for the wheels against the axle. So you're gonna, there are another pair of these on a different sprue, if I remember correctly, in one of the other kits. So its stance is subtly different, and it's altered by these. It's very clever actually, and very simple way of achieving this. So it means you don't have to change the axle part, you just change the cap ends. And you'll notice they are, whilst they're not handed, and they're genuinely not handed, they are set So that sets the alignment of the hub to the wheel and allows them just to have one standard axle without having to mess it. Very clever idea. So that's my rear, oops, nearly threw it on the floor, rear transaxle. Now these on also here you've got two parts which are labelled I9 and 8. I9 and 8 are on a little tiny sub sprue and they're here. I9 and 8 are, I think they're towing eyes or lifting hooks, I'm not sure which, but they're one on either side under the rear chassis. They are to be painted yellow. They're moulded in black. This is not a disaster, however, but they're moulded in black and they're quite chunky on the plastic sprue. But they also give you them on the photo etch as parts 31 and 32. And here they is. They're wafer thin, probably nearer to the real thing scale wise, so we're going to use them. So what we're going to do, we're going to leave them on the sprue and we're just going to get my photo etch parts, because with photo etches you can't really paint it on the fret easily, so we're going to, whoever it was that invented putting plastic laminates over photo etched frets, if I ever find out who it was, he's not going to have a happy afternoon when I get hold of him. So, oh, that was crinkly, sorry. Here we are. So now I've got a blade. I'm going for a blade with a curved tip. This is a 15, so I can just slide underneath my part, which you should, oh no, hang on. Ooh, that one's attached. Just a cut. That shouldn't do any more. Need any more than that. Jonathan will be laughing into his coffee or his tea or even his single malt. But there you go. So that bit's off there. So I know that's going in the box because I'm going to use it, and I also know this one much the same. So what I end up with as I go along is everything I'm going to use in the kit is in this box. Anything that at the end of the process is left on the sprue, I need to then re-examine the sprue, the instructions, to go, have I missed this part? Once I've got these in this tub, we move to the next stage, and we'll cover that in probably the next video. Okay, so we've got these two bits, these three bits, and we're going to, and this is the information about the photo etch, and we're going to look at these bits. So we need sprue A for 20, number 1, 19 and 13. That's the front suspension setup. That's 13. That's fairly obvious. It's a front frame, and we've got some ejector pin bits on there. Get rid of them. Oh, it's still attached to the frame because it's easier. There we are. Put that to one side, and we needed, what was it, 19, 20 and number 1. Now number 1 is quite happily sat there. And that's the steering rack thingy-bobble, and then we've got the uprights for the front suspension. And if you remember, when we reviewed through the kit, there's another set of them in the box, which are these ones, which are the 11 and 12 on sprue D, and if I show you them side by side, the difference is apparent, and it's all about ride height. This model stands higher than the one that uses parts in on the D sprue. There's more height to that upright. The wheel location is lower on the strut. So that's interesting to know. Now, you might think, well, I do spend time cleaning these parts up at this point. Now, that's part of my process. Is I will do that at the next stage. So these bits, I've got the right parts. I've identified the correct pieces, and they're going in there. Moving on to stage 3. There's a staple in there. That hurt. Anyway, dear, oh dear, oh dear. It's dreadful, isn't it? Professionalism? I don't know. So, sprue D, again, we've got a splash guard. The benefit of these more expensive side cutters is there's less cleanup involved. I mean, the finish you can achieve with them is pretty much spectacular. And there's no cleanup hardly really, just the mould line to sand on that one. So that's that one. Where are we? And part A's. Those are all A's. I like all A's. So A is there, that's my brake discs. Now it should be noted the brake discs are handed both front and rear and left and right. But the alignment on them is very cleverly locked with the detail on the back of them. So you shouldn't be able to put them in the wrong places. If you do manage to put them in the wrong places, you win a special award. And we'll just leave it at that. Rear ones are smaller, front ones are bigger and also are scored, so they've got lines in them. There are photo etch parts for the faces of these, and they make painting a lot easier. So the discs themselves are called out to have what they call pH76, which is also known as C61 burnt iron. So that's a dark grey metallic centres with a silver brake facing. So what you could do is just paint them all in the one colour, and then you're going to stick your photo etched faces over the top, and that gives you your finish. Nice and easy, makes life easier. So you're going to use these photo etched bits because we ain't daft, and it will make our life easier. And anything that makes our life easier is not a bad thing. The rear ones are just plain discs. I didn't realise this. I actually found some reference pictures of one of these online, and the rear braking system is simplicity. Incredibly simple and not massively rated for a car that rallied in basically in the Group B era. Effectively, the brake discs on these are just so plain. Yeah. You do not wonder how they used to stop those cars with all that power. Absolutely mental. Anyway, so that's the discs off the photo etch fret. Polycap's already in the tub. Moving on to step 4, we're on the interior. So the tub, with the interior section again. Again, this has holes to drill, which are relevant to the individual car depicted, and are drawn at 0.8, 1.1 and 1.6 are on the instructions. That's quite nice. And again, you're looking at the layout now. You'll notice this one, on this instance, the holes are drilled on the back. See what I mean? So you've got to make sure your alignment's right, and we're going to do these two and these two and that one. That one I think is the fire extinguisher. It is. It's the fire extinguisher. It's upright back there. I genuinely think this is one of the nicer kits I've built recently. I wouldn't be building a third if I didn't think so. That interior, that detailing for the floor and everything, it's not a converted road car kit they had lying around. They turned into a rally car. It's actually a kit that's built from the floor up to be what it says it is. These little cross pieces here are the locating pegs for the floor to the chassis, and they locate really nicely. It's just a nice thing, and it's such a quirky subject as well. You know, Mitsubishi Lancer Turbo is not the most well known of cars. Right, so let's move on to the next set of parts. Now, interestingly, the kit provides the foot guards in both plastic, and then they are also on the etch fret. Now, I found with another kit that I was building recently that had one of these etch sets in it, that it felt like those etch parts were actually intended to face over the plastic part. They weren't intended to replace it because they had no locating pins on it. So we're going to drill 2 holes in the floor for this guard, this footrest to go into. If you don't use this and put the photo etch part on it, there are no feet, no pegs on the photo etch. On examination, I think it's literally just designed to glue on the front of it. When you look at it for size and everything, that seems to be the case. And in fact, it's ever so slightly bigger than the plastic part, but the holes all line up beautifully. So I think that's the thing. I think it's just intended to go over that. I seem to be unnecessarily cack-handed tonight. I do apologise. There we go. That's off the thing. There's my plastic part. There's my photo etch part. Now this one, the part is here and has a bend line moulded into it. I don't know about you, but I'm never sure whether you should bend towards the recess or away from it. But in this instance, I'm going to go with towards, because I think, no, away from it. Looking at that, so again, it's intended to go over the plastic part. That's the only explanation I can have for it. The holes all line up perfectly. It has no locating pin on it. It's intended to face up the plastic. So what we are going to do is I'm going to bend it first of all. Now there are umpteen, and I mean umpteen, expensive tools for bending photo etch. This is a straightforward 90-degree bend. So all I'm going to use is a pair of Tamiya's photo etch bending pliers, because they are wonderful. You don't need a lot more. Just, I can hear highly talented modelers the world over going, "Oh my God, he's not used a doodah." No, I didn't. I used a pair of pliers. There you go. Look, and guess what? It fits over the plastic part perfectly. So yeah, you paint the plastic part, you put it into place, you glue the photo etch bit over the top. Job's a kipper. There we go. Lovely. Anyway, so that's that bit done. There's also the fire extinguisher on here, so let's get that off the sprue. 2 parts, the fire extinguisher. There we go, on there. Experience tells me the fit of this is not wondrous. Not at all, if I'm honest. Also on here we've got the gear shift, the handbrake, and the pedal box. The pedal box is there. Each pedal has its own attachment. How wonderful. Now I found the other week that there's a bit of flash on these when they come off the sprue, and it's there on this one as well. So I shouldn't, because I moved away from what I was saying. I don't normally do cleanup, but that was annoying me. I've got to get rid of that. That fits onto the pegs on the back of the. So I've checked my fit. I'm happy with my fit. I know where it goes. It goes in the prep box. the gear lever and the handbrake are here on the sprue. Really interesting place to locate them, almost like they'd forgotten them. There's an enormous ejector mark pin thing you do now there. I turn the blades round so I'm cutting to the back of the blade and trim up the gear lever before I do the base piece, which has got a peg on it for low. No, it hasn't actually. Do a flush to that, therefore, and that is intended to go here once it's cleaned up. It's not particularly cleaned up on the face, and the handbrake lever, which is ginormous. Saw a very nice 3D printed replacement part for this online the other day and thought, should I? And then went, no, you're building it from the box, Ian, because that's what you promised people you were going to do. Fire extinguisher. The first time I put one of these, I held one of these together, I was a bit like, what? And realised the peg is actually a locating peg. That one fits together better than the last one did, but about the same as the first one. So what we're going to do, we're going to glue that together because we want it to be dry when we come to prep. Really quick drying to me a lick extra thin. Oops. Dear, oh dear. Like I said, fingers and thumbs tonight. And as it's a fire extinguisher, can you guess what colour it's going to be? Oh yeah, it's going to be red. So we need to turn that into a colour that sits underneath red quite nicely, so it's probably going to end up primed with some pink Mr. Surfacer. There's a photo etch band on the etch fret. Ta-da! Which is intended to wrap around said fire extinguisher. I've tried this. This is not normal. I used some bare metal foil. We're going to do the same on this one. So that piece can stay exactly where it flipping is. Thank you and no thank you for photo etched cable ties. There's a very nice decals and bits to come on those fire extinguishers which will cover that process as we go along. So we're moving from this one to this one. Now the first time I built this, I read these instructions. It says holes for fitting seats, and the holes for fitting seats are in the floor. I thought, do I have to clean them out? Well, there's nothing on the back. You don't. It's just because car does left and right hand drive, and you have to make sure you've got the seats the right way around for this this orientation. It's a little tricky if you aren't paying attention, so please do pay attention. There's muck in there. Let's get that out of there. Okay, so anyway, so here we've got the bits we needed for that stage and the photo etch parts. There are some photo etch pedal faces which are here and which are matte black, satin black rather, with satin black pedals. Yeah, I think on the one I did, the last one I did where I used the photo etch, I painted the pedal blocks satin black and painted them matte black and glued them on as a contrast. You'll choose whether that's appropriate to you or not. I'm gonna do it because that's how we roll. The one good thing about the plastic back etches is that they are kind of fixed to it while you're cutting them like this. Now you're going to do your cleanup, and we'll come to cleanup, as I say, much later. So that's all done. Step 5. Step 5 contains the dreaded seatbelts. We're going to skip step 5. That's going to get a whole video all of its own. I promise I'll R-rate it because there will be cursing. I guarantee it. The decals in the box do provide seatbelts. They're black. We're going to try a different approach. We'll see how we get on. Anyway, so let's move to this. So on this one here, we've got both seats off the sprue and B20, which is some kind of electronics box that goes on the back. So this is sprue B. Here's my electronics box. A bit tight this one to get off the sprue because of the way it's moulded. But there you go. There's my seats. Now, I don't know how many of you find this stuff thrilling. If you're enjoying the video, please do like it. If you subscribe to my channel, thank you very much. It's much appreciated. I don't have any subscribers. I don't know whether I'd actually like that to change or not. I wouldn't mind a few more. I don't think it's ever going to pay the mortgage. Who'd have thought? But I'd like to see some people say hello or tell me that they're enjoying it or ask me questions. So if you have any of those things you could do, I would appreciate it. Right, we're going to move on to stage 6. We've done these are off the sprue. We understand what the holes are. The seatbelt stuff we're going to ignore for now. So we're on to dash. Dash sprue B, which is still in my hand. Yeah, we're going to need part 8. And we're going to need parts 22 and 21. 22 and 21 are down here. They're really, it's a beautifully little detailed like sub panel for the instrumentation, which is part 20. Whoa, that went. Oh, and there you have it. There you have it. The carpet monster will be munching on that. That's this. Let me show you this before I go and find that bit. This is that little sub panel. Isn't that lovely? Beautifully moulded. It's got switches and a little screen and stuff and a shroud, and it's intended to just plug into the side of the instrument panel. I did find when I built the last one that I had to open the panel holes up. We'll cover that as we go along. So that's off there. Right, excuse me. I'm going to go find that bit. Victory. We have beaten the carpet monster. The missing bit was found, and guess what? It only took longer than I'm going to admit. Anyway, so we'll move back on. So again, that's another part of the instrument panel, and that is done. So we need a couple of bits here. We're going to find that main panel part now, and we also need from sprue B the main instrument cluster part. Again, experience tells me the fit of that is not the best, so we'll deal with that when we get to it. Instrument panel, and we also need sprue A for the steering wheel and the steering column. So what we were saying about this instrument panel, this instrument cluster, is it sits into the top of the cluster. There's a mold line molded around it, which feels really clunky, and then you go and look at pictures of the real things, and it's there. It's actually there on the real thing. This line here. All you got to do is tidy up the joining faces, take a little bit of the weight out of it, and paint it and glue it on, because it's genuinely there on the real car. Again, really nicely molded, nicely detailed instrument panel. that little bit we were talking about before, that secondary panel, which I know I did put in here, is there. Come here, thank you. Fits just there. I'm not chucking that on the floor. Fits just there like that, look. And I believe it's a stage timing device for the Copilot. So, yeah, so that's the panel parts. This is a little bit iffy fit wise, it's all a little bit vague, but it lines up quite nicely. It does need a lot of cleanup though. Just be careful not to clean up detail when it's supposed to be there. As I say, it's not the best fit, that it's less than stellar. Let's just use that phrase, shall we? If you get it wrong, it's just not pretty. Mind you, trying to install it upside down didn't help. There you go. So that's like, yeah. But anyway, you can see what you think to it when you clean yours up. So we've got the instrument panel parts off the sprue, and we can move on. There's decals to go on this as well. Decals, can we get that right so it can be seen? Go back to them. There we go, back to that one. There we go. Decals. For that instrument, those two little instrumenty panels, there's a warning triangle for the center console, and there's the instruments for the package. Takes us on to this. Now on this, we've already got holes for the roll cage drilled. They're not particularly well done, so we'll just give them a shovel with the. This is one of Tamiya's new files ranges. I've got a couple of these. These are hard coated File Pro, they're labelled as. So there's a half round and a flat blade and a very, very finely tipped circular. For this job, they're clearly intended for that job, you know. They're really nicely made. However, I will say is they're not cheap. So if you do buy them, look after them. There might come a time when you can't replace them for whatever reason. But like all tools, you know, we take some of these things for granted. You know, you only have to look at what's going on in the Middle East at the minute. Some of those people, you know, they took their life, their way of life for granted, and it's being destroyed. So it could happen to us just as easily. If someone decides he wants to expand his golf courses across the whole of the UK, we'll have fun. Roll cage. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 part roll cage. It's all on sprue A. Ta-da. In fact, looking at it, it's the only things left on sprue A. So we have the roof section, note locating pin when you cut it off the sprue because it's really close to the locating point. It's tight, that one, you've got to be very careful with it. Rear side frames rather, and again, just be careful when you're cutting them off the sprue because some of the locating points are close. Okay, we've then got a cross brace or two. The one for the front is curved, and when I built the first one of these, I was a bit perturbed by this. It's curved and it's got the rear view mirror mount in it. You've kind of got to line it up a little bit. It feels almost flat in section, so there's a bit of care with that one. This one, which is the back one, has bits on it for mounting the I think for mounting the number plates. No, the seat belts too. But that's where your seat belt rear mounts are. So now we've got that sprue. There's nothing left on that. So that can go in the recycling. That's a bit less rubbish off my desk. Okay, so I'll come back to those in a moment. The rear view mirror, incidentally, is already in the pot because it came off the sprue a long time ago during me making that other video, so it's in there anyway. The tub also has sidewalls, which are here, and again there are holes to be drilled in these because there are pockets on them, mat pockets and things, and they're on the side of this sprue as well, along with there's a little twiddly bit there, part 11, which B11 rather, fits onto a hole that's drilled in this one, and it fits in there. I honestly haven't got a clue what that is, but it's only on one of the ones I've already built, and it's obviously on this one as well. The first one I built, only one of them had it. So these sidewall pieces are a really nice fit actually. If you get them just clipped in at the back, and like so, with a bit of liquid poly you can get them in all lined up nicely. It looks like I've got some flex in the floor that way because that isn't lining up quite as well as the others did, so I'll do a little bit of clamping when I come to put all this together. Yeah, see, it's low. But yeah, if you get it right, get it clamped up, it'll look nice. You've just got those, and as I say, there's holes to drill in these for the pockets, which are also here. So I've got all my bits for this stage. This piece is going to tell me about how to drill up the body and the front grille photo etch and how it fits, because it's very nicely produced with the cutouts to fit into place on the plastic. It's really actually genuinely very nicely engineered. That we need that bit off. We need that off of there. Some more plastic for the recycling pile down there. This is the front bumper. Now the front bumper fit on the previous ones wasn't too good. Now this bumper has not beanieized with them. This is a different bumper. So we'll have a little play. 2 pegs and obviously 2 pegs. So we'll have a line up. Oh, that's a huge improvement over the other one I built. Yeah, that's interesting. Cool. Oh yeah, that's all right. And again though, just be sure that you know where all your parts are locating. So we've got the upright fog lights in here, and the forward the faced fog lights in here, and my towing eye to locate. There's lights and stuff in there, but you know, needs a little bit of tart up, and that'll be fine. Okay, and we've got that. So now we're at a point where we'll put the instructions aside once for a minute, and we're going to build the roll cage up. And what we're going to do is we're going to use, we just cleaned out those holes on the floor. We're going to use them to hold the roll cage in place, and we're going to assemble the roll cage. And once the roll cage is assembled, then we're going to clean up the various bits and bobs of it. The molds and everything. It's easier to do it. I know it sounds ridiculous. I find it easier to do it in one piece. Just personal preference, isn't it? So there's my side pieces. They fit okay. There's a little bit of cleanup needed there. What we could do with a tool that does that bit better than a knife blade. I challenge someone to design that. So that goes into there, and then that piece goes into place. So that's my side piece. Get my other one cleaned up, put my roof cross brace in, and then add my other braces. Carpet monster can have that bit, it's not important. So the roof brace, the cross brace goes here. And it's going there. Like that. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to hold that together. And we're going to get some, what we would normally get is some Tamiya extra thin rapid set. Now we're looking at this, we're going, these pens aren't locating into these holes neatly. Now obviously when they build these kits the tolerances are quite tiny, but there's a combination of the pins are too long and the holes aren't deep enough on there and on there, and there's a bit of flashing on the face down in here. Now I could just wallop that in glue and hold it together and hope it goes right, or I can spend a little bit of time just making sure that it fits together properly. So that's edge of the blade and just scraping away the mold line on that. But what I am going to do is I'm going to trim that pin down a little bit, then I'll go back and have another look. So theoretically that should now fit much tighter, and it does. That pin is still a little bit too long, but the higher one is fitting nicely. So we'll take a little bit more out of that. What we will do is actually we'll get a drill, find a drill of the appropriate size. That's about right, and we'll just give it a little spin, because it might well be that there's just some debris or something in that hole that's stopping it. We don't want to drill through the thing, so we'll just do that, put that away, and that's better. Now this is where we can try something different. Now most people would, as I say, get the extra thin on this. I've got here my Pringles lid again. Those of you who've watched the video about polishing car bodies will know all about Pringles lids, and anybody see me on shows and stuff will know I love Pringles lid. They're brilliant for what they do. This is Tamiya white label glue. Now Tamiya white label glue is gloopy glue. It's like a thin tube cement. It's much thicker than normal poly, but it smells wonderful. Oh, wonderful stuff. But what it can be used for is doing precision applications like this. So because its bonding time is slower, it will give me a stronger join as well than conventional liquid polys, which can flash off a little bit too quickly for this kind of job. So I've got my holes filled with that. I can put my part into place, and there we are. And that will give a little bit of squidge. Give it a second or two to set up. There we are. Second or two to set up, and it will look. It doesn't work like instantly. You know, it's not that kind of glue. But what it is going to do is give it. Oh yeah, I told you I was cack-handed tonight. It will give you a much stronger join. Once I've got that like that, I can do a bit more on there. You could use a little brush, although you're in a brush, or you could use a cocktail stick or whatever. I think Spencer and John were talking about this, and they were talking about cocktail sticks for it. So that's gripped up enough to kind of hold in place. So I'll put some more. I'll do what we'll do. We'll do them drills. I'll drill that a little. I'll take a look, put a little bit of extra depth into this upper locating pin because it just didn't look quite deep enough. Upper locating hole rather. And we'll repeat that on the front one here as well. And the one for the lower cross brace. The lower cross brace is not the nicest of mouldings. If anything, the roll cage is the soft point of this model. It's not got the finesse of some of the rest of it. I don't know if that's because it's been around a little while, or it's just wasn't a focus. But there you go. Got my cross. Oops, I put it into camera. There we go. Do that, do that, do that, and that. Put that together with that, and give it a wiggle. Get it all lined up into my holes. There we are. The problem is I should have turned the mat over to a paler colour. Black on the isn't the best. So I've got my I've got my roll cage starting to set up now. The cross brace for the with the rear view mirror mount. God, Ian, the rear view mirror mount in it. You can tell where I do my work. Actually, this is quite telling as to how close to me I tend to have things when I'm working on them. May explains why I find so much time sat on my knees under the bench trying to find stuff. There's a nice bit of flash on that. I'll give that a wipe off. A number 10 blade with the round face. Nothing really beats it for doing that job. And then I can go back over that with a sanding stick later, and it will just be right. So that's that. Get my Tamiya on the end of it, because obviously I've put some into the various holes they're going into. This gives it a double edge of load. I've got a pair of tweezers here, so I'm going to lock that like that with my tweezers. Bring it in, and make sure that the hole for the rear view mirror is on the bottom and vertically. There you go. So that's, oops, go back where you were supposed to be. Thank you. So that's that one done. As I said, this cross brace is a bit lumpy. Needs a little bit more work. But again, you would do that when it's all bonded up. It'll be fine. And to be fair, you can't see a great deal of it in the model. But there you go. When doing these things, no one actually ever tells you how hard it is to make these videos without getting your head in the camera. You know, I spent a lot of time and effort trying to set up my overhead camera, so I didn't do exactly that. So I hope it worked. So that's now all jigged into. It's a fixture, isn't it? Not a jig. So I've used the floor as a fixture to align everything. So that's all now got that. That's bonding away quite nicely. I want to speed that bond up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit it with a little bit of extra thin, not the fast drying one, I have to say, just to fix those joints and give them a little bit of a zhuzh along on the old drying front. There you go. So that I will put to one side, still in that floor piece, overnight to dry. What I will do is, because habit is everything, I will tidy up a little before I do anything else, because, yeah, just because. You don't want to see a messy workbench. So we're back to the instructions. We've got our roll cage built and our instrumentation, our instrument panel done. We've done this. We're working on the front now. Now, at this point, I have to say I still haven't decided which decal option I'm going to go with. Whether to go with the one with the front number plate or the one with the artwork with the numbers on the bonnet. So what I am going to do is I'm going to have to make a decision. Well, I think we're going to go with 116. Yeah. So 116 requires a number plate mount on the front bumper. Now, there are holes, but I don't think they're for the number plate. So the number plate part is on sprue I, and it's part number 4. Oh, they are, in fact, for that part. That's fine, so we'll use them. There is a photo X replacement on the X fret. Doesn't have locating pins on it, and it's not bulky enough for the number plate mounts that I remember seeing on these. So I'm going to stick with the plastic ones because my others have got the plastic ones on them, and I want it to match. And apart from anything, could you tell if that was a photo X part? I doubt it. Let's see what you mean. See what I mean. Look. See, if that was a photo X part, would it add anything to it with a number plate stuck on it? Unlikely. Anyway, so that goes in there. They go in there. These are clear parts. So my habit, they're clear parts, is to mark them with a highlighter, and there's a reason I do that. I treat my clear parts at a separate point of construction. By doing that, I'm able to make the point to myself that I need to know where they are and what they are. It's just my strangeness. I'm very sorry. We're here, so we're starting to deal with the clutter. Part D1 is the front grille. So we'll D1 has a couple of locating pins on the back of it, which locate into those two pieces on those verticals. You will find, if you build this kit, that it is not particularly easy to get it into the body first time. The reason being, there's some very offset slide mouldy bits going on here. So time spent preparing these mating surfaces to make that fit in that somewhat large hole, get it the right way up, it helps, is well spent. What I would say to you is, on the end of these pieces stick out, they actually extend. When you get this right, it takes a little bit of doing, they actually extend beyond the edges of the car because they hold the light glass, and you will find you're doing the same thing, trimming the top and bottom faces of the top and bottom faces of the light glass to make them fit as well. So this is where you're getting into preparing ahead of paint. So when I come to the next stage of preparation, I'll talk you through what I do. But that's where you're learning what goes on. So on here there are peg and hoop, peg and wire bonnet clips. They're on the Photo X fret, and they are absolutely tiny. You know, in the greater scheme of things, they're little. They've got the wire hoops and the discs. I'm going to leave them on the X fret until the last minute because they just don't want to lose them. They're not going to get used in the construction, so they'll sit there. They'll go on the finished model. I'll do a bit of detail painting with a brush before I fit them on. Theoretically, you could, or really ought to, put a pin up for them to sit into, but they're produced with the pin, without the pin, but with the clip laid flat on them, so it would be quite difficult. There are other brands, other people's versions of these which come with the pin that you can drill, and I might substitute those. We shall see. Where are we now? So we're down to here. We've done the front grille. We know about number plate. We're going to do that one. This is lovely. There is also a towing piece which is on sprue D, which is labelled as D5, which would be lovely if I didn't have sprue B in my hand. Oh, I tell you. And it's there, look, and it's absolutely tidgy, and it's also supposed to be gloss red. Now it would be a lot easier to paint that on a sprue stub like that, so that's what we're going to do. The fog light pieces are here. Now I didn't, the first time I built one of these, I didn't think they were handed. They are. You've got to be a little bit careful with them. Make sure you get them right. So 1 and 2 are for the upright ones. 3 and 4 are for the push into the dash ones. I think if it was me, 2 things I'd do. I'd leave them on this sprue until the last minute, and I'm doing my cleanup, and then mount them and number the painting armatures so I know which ones they are. They're all painted white, I think. White, yeah. So these are covers, and there's lenses and things and bits of chrome and stuff to go in these yet. They're a complex set of things. I'm going to leave that little sprue alone, put it into my constructions box, but leave it as it is until I'm at the next stage. This is all glass and chroming stuff, so we're going to leave that alone. The chrome again, these are the headlight pieces. They are handed, and it's really obvious that they're handed, so they're nice and easy to deal with, and they've also got ejector pin points on the end of them. And they fit nicely into that part that we were talking about, the one with the dodgy fit. They're quite cool. Through here, so we've done through here. There's when you're looking at a set of instructions and wondering what okay, there's a symbol for scraping the plating off the kit, and it was throwing me. The glass will come to, as I say, in a separate video. There are Photo X wipers on here. Photo X wipers, in my mind, are the work of the devil. Is there a better way of representing windscreen wipers? Possibly not. The thing is that the Photo X ones do not accurately represent the wipers on the car, which the kit actually does. Because the wipers have got aero blades on them, and they are actually on the plastic ones. So we're going to stick with the plastic wipers, which I'm overly pleased about. Now, the one thing I will say is, I think They are basically the same, these wipers. I was wondering if they were handed actually, and they're not. They are the same. So that's cool. Wipers tucked away, and I think I mentioned this in the other video, tucked away in the corner of sprue B is this tiny little piece here. This is part B25. This is the shut off. Goes on the bonnet, kind of there-ish. There's a hole to drill up here and it goes in there. Don't miss it, because it's a bear to find in the wheelie bin. Mirrors are both sides and they're on sprue I. They don't think you can paint them on the model and then add them, because the mould lines on them are stupendously big, so you do need to paint them separately and clean them up and paint them separately. There are chrome faces for them as well. What I tend to do with those is this. I'm not going to paint them, but I'll leave them on that little bit there. Here we are with that one. Right, so, and we're getting into really towards the end of the model now. So we've got this part here, which is B24. Which again holds the rear light chromes. So they go into the pot. So what you'll see is when you next see me, I'm going to sit and I will basically repeat this process of building the kit, but clean up, and that kind of means that I've looked at every part at least 3 or 4 times before I've committed to paint or to glue. And by doing that, I tend to catch those little pitfalls like that. That part needs to go right down in there, but it's flashy and not particularly well molded, and it just takes a bit of cleanup. If you were to just take that off, give it a quick cursory swipe over the sanding stick and paint it, it's not going to fit. It's just not going to fit. So treat it properly. Spoiler. Ta-da. This is actually a nicely moulded little spoiler. I love the fact that it's got a cutout for the lock body on the tailgate. It's just cute. Nicely done. There's a nasty mould line though that runs along that face there. Just like, thanks lads. The Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. One thing I will say to you is a few seconds spent with that prep, making sure that's right, will make or break that part. The back bumper is on sprue I also, along with the rear number plate, which is the squarer one. And we also have a replacement aerial. We're not going to use that number plate, we're always using the etch parts for that, and these are the bonnet fittings. So I'm going to put that in my spare parts pile off the left. Now if I need those spare parts, I will find them. But I'm pretty sure I know where they are going, and they're just going to stay down there. Rear bumper fit is quite cool, neat, shows the proper depth step around the side because it shouldn't be flush, lines up with the trim. There's a bit of flash showing under this body, by the way, that needs dealing with. It's got the nicely detailed panel with the heat protector on it. Yeah. The one problem it does have though is this. There is a mould line that comes off the back face, goes around and goes round the edge of the, and through the centre and round the edge and back to the mould, where the lamps are for the rear light. they should have been moulded separately. That way you wouldn't have had that, and that area of recess is a bear to get rid of. So be prepared for a little bit of battle. Ways you could do it: you could carefully slice them off, sand that all flush, put them back. Probably the route I took on at least one of the ones I built, but it's an absolute pig. That here are two little tiny bits which are parts of the retainers for the rear, for the trunk. I need to make sure they're cut off the sprue properly. They also provide you with photo etch parts for those, to upgrade them. If you use them, you don't need to drill the peg holes, and you're going to cut the pegs off, because the photo etch parts negate the pegs. Alright, so all that's left on here now is those uprights we're not using, but again, we don't put them in the bin, we put them in the spare parts box, because it has been known that people get things wrong in kit instructions. Okay, done that. We're on to this one. There's the radiator. It comes with photo etched faces. There's nothing left on that sprue either, look. There we go. So we now have all the parts off the sprues, apart from the wheels. I would paint those wheels on that. Why not? Leave it like that. Paint them like that. There are 1 and 2, so there are front and rear wheels on that. Front, rear. If you look, they're actually different. The kit does show you. Actually, I've got that the wrong way around. Front, rear. That's interesting. They actually are the same width. So the front's got a raised centre hub. No. The front has got a raised centre hub. There you are, look. And the back has got a flush face. So that's quite interesting. They've got that. These are the little details that they've actually picked out. They have actually seen this car in the flesh. There you go. So the wheels get painted like that. There's my radiator. Here are my faces for it. These little bits here. Which side's my film on? That side's right. These little bits here are for those boot release pieces. This is where you get into things that make you go, did you need that? There's a photo etch part here that is intended to go over this. Is it going to improve it? I don't think it is, you know. There's nowhere in the instructions does it tell you to paint that area silver. None at all. If you look at the painting instructions that come with the kit, it's the body colour. So it's not going to improve the model. So that there is pointless. Absolutely pointless. The number plate, the rally plate boards are quite useful, although by this point they were vinyl stickers on a lot of them that were just put on, so I'm not entirely sure they're relevant to this car, particularly when I'd have to try and find a picture, but I was pretty sure these are just vinyl stickers for the Lombard by this point that they just peeled off and stuck on. I stand to be corrected there. If you know better than me, tell me. But I think those decals can just go straight onto the paintwork. They don't need a backing. There you go. So what have we got? We've got seatbelt material. That's seatbelt material. We've got the wipers, which we're not going to use because they're not right. We've got the radiator faces to take off here. I'll do that in a mo. Number plate boards. Well, I use the plastic ones because the other ones have all used the plastic ones, and I don't want to do them differently. The mud flaps I'm going to use as a template. These are lock bodies for going on the doors and the back. Now, because there's a mould line that runs along here, you're going to lose that one anyway. That shot. The mould line, you just about see it. Look, it's there. Look, yeah, look, see it goes there, it goes up, and it goes round that blooming thing along there. So you're going to sand that flush. So you might as well take that off. So I'll probably replace all of the lock bodies with the Photo X ones because they are quite nice actually. 2 different sizes as well, which is cool. So those are quite nice. So we'll get in there and we'll get those meshes off. In fact, those meshes are not fretless. That's annoying. Everything, all the larger parts on that fret are fretless, apart from the radiator faces. That seems a bit nonsensical. Sorry, off camera work again. It's habit, all right. I'll go back to the bigger view. How about that? That's better, isn't it? You might see what I'm doing now. Get under there. Just breaking the seal, getting the air behind you. Oh, they're done. So what we're establishing is this one's designed to go around the base of the aerial. There's a little wing nut, so I'll probably just chop it and glue the wing nut on. These I'm going to use as templates. These I'll probably use. Don't even know what these are. They're like spare parts. Not certain they're irrelevant. That's useless. These are mildly usable. Those aren't right. That's a nonsense. Those are a nonsense. Seatbelt material isn't. Is the work of the devil. Yeah. Okay. So we'll park that for now. These are the chrome parts for the fog lights. They are numbered and sequenced, so they're clearly not all the same, and looking at them I don't think they are, so I'm going to just leave them on the sprue until I need to use them. So we've got all the way through the instructions. What we're now left with is a box of bits. Ta-da! A box of bits, a body and a shell and a roll cage that's setting up. What we've also done is we've thinned the contents of the box quite thoroughly, so there's much less stuff sitting in the box. So the box is now usable as a store for the model. So we put the lid, without trashing the workshop, into the box. Instructions with the decals, painting information, tray of bits, stuff that's gluing. Put it to one side. Tidy away the tools we've used because we're a bit that way. And we now have a lovely tidy bench. The next stage is to bring that back to the bench and repeat that process. And each part then gets worked, cleaned up, brought up to standard, tidied, fit checked, pre-assembled, tested. Then it will get apertured up. Then it will get painted. Then it will get detail painted or weathered or whatever's appropriate to it, and then it will be put to one side, ready to be assembled. You'll end up with Mercedes AMG, well into that process, a box that looks like this. So I have a body that's in primer. I have a box of parts that are painted, assembled. The only thing that's in there, the glass, is just waiting to be masked and sprayed. These need to be yellow, for instance, but all of that's ready. These bits in here are awaiting me to do masking and spraying for second colours and effects, so that's ongoing. So this is my current focus with this kit. Once I've dealt with this, these are the body parts waiting to be gloss coated, but so yeah, and that's the process. So the next episode will be about parts cleanup, parts preparation, and the way we set them up to be painted. Hope that all made sense. I'm sure it was way too long, and for that I apologise. I've just stabbed myself in the elbow. I do. That's great. That's a good start. I'm off to bed now. It was nice talking to you all. I hope you enjoyed that, and I look forward to seeing you in the future.